Hi guys, this is our 7th video blog in response to the movie we watched. The question is, how did the technological changes in the 20th century change sexual practices and the society's view of sex? And I think along the whole 20th century from the beginning to the end, um, there was obviously more technology introduced to sexual practices, but the behavior and the how society viewed sex also changed. From the beginning of the 20th century, there was a change in the way people viewed sex. They were trying to get away from the conservative Victorian ideals. There were dances and amusement parks, which kind of gave freedom and time for leisure. And there was movies introduced, and it brought sexual practices onto the big screen, where romance and sex was talked about openly, and this was something that they had never seen before. Also, there was two sides of birth control. There was one man, he was trying to um, banish it, and then there was a woman who was basically promoting it and promoting clinics and birth control and education. Um, and then in the 1930s, the automobile kind of put a new take on sexual practices. It was like a way for teens to explore sexual practices. And also the pinup girl, an image of a female, which was basically a fantasy for soldiers to come back to. I think it kind of changed the way people viewed sex and viewed what they were coming back to. Um, and then in the 1930s, there was a report on what people imagined sex was like and what it actually was like. And so basically, this changed society because society viewed, oh, well, sex is between a man and a woman and it's a certain way. When this report came out, it kind of mentioned actually had the truth of it, and there was no fiction to it. And then also in 1950, Playboy came out, so it gave another outlet for sexuality to be explored. Um, and in 1960, the birth control pill was developed, and it gave freedom to women, which kind of, I would say, shifted society. It was allowed women to have the control and decide if they wanted to become pregnant, and they were able to explore sexually what they wanted to do more. Then, if you went through the 1970s era, um, there was like a American version of the Kama Sutra that was written, and people were buying that, and they were curious and interested in these new sexual practices. And then also, like, AIDS came of time, and when this happened, first there was like horror to the whole situation, and then after the initial, you know, shock wore off, there became a discussion about having safe sex and what you should do for safe sex. And then towards the end of the 20th century, around the 1990s period, cyber sex, which um, came into technology, and it was a different form of communication. And I think it just dramatically shifted when it came to that, because it wasn't actually you were seeing a person, it was obviously online or whatever. Also, in the 1990s, Viagra was introduced. So I think from the beginning till the late 20s, I think sex changed and evolved, and society kind of changed and evolved on what they believed was normal and what they believed was acceptable of sexual practices.